Welcome, everyone, to the Pulse of St. Louis. I'm Jasmine Huda. Well, we've got about 7 to 8 weeks to go until the election, and a recent poll shows that Missouri Republican candidates have double-digit leads in each statewide race. That is just one of the findings from St. Louis University researchers who surveyed voters on the upcoming 2024 election as part of the SLU YouGov poll. Joining us to talk about the results of the YouGov poll is St. Louis University professor Stephen Rogers. Thanks for joining us again.
Thank you for having me, Jasmine.
So this poll was conducted by your team. It was after the August primary. I first want to get into that point that I mentioned a little while ago about the poll. It looks like Republicans have a good chance of a clean sweep, and that starts in the race for the White House all the way down to the statewide offices. So talk about what we're seeing here.
No, you're exactly right. And so then here, St. Louis University, in coordination with YouGov, we conducted a survey in early mid-August, right after the primary, and we surveyed 900 likely Missouri voters. And so for viewers, I just want to kind of be clear, this is kind of before the convention and even before the debates that we just saw this week. However, Republicans had these really healthy leads, and so I don't really expect maybe the outcomes of the races to be all that different. And then here, as we've kind of seen for the last 6 years, Republicans are very likely to probably win all the statewide races. And so...
Oh, I was going to say, and we'll talk about the issues on the ballot that could change that, but like you said, it's pretty much going to be straight across Republican, the way things are looking now, at least.
You're exactly right. And so then kind of starting at the top of the ticket between President Trump and then Vice President Harris, Donald Trump has about a 13-point lead on Harris. And then here, if we actually compare this to results from about a year ago, when we compared a generic Republican candidate to Joe Biden, this lead is actually a little bit smaller. And so as we know, kind of over the summer, what we've kind of saw is which there was a switch in the Democratic ticket. So maybe Harris is doing a little bit better than Biden would have done. However, Trump is probably going to repeat what he did back in, say, both 2020 and 2016 and take the state of Missouri.
The race for the president, your observations, especially in light of the fact that we had that debate, which many people thought that she was the one who arose the victor, although there are other opinions as well.
Yeah, so Vice President Harris is kind of seen to be that she did a little bit better. Republican voters did think that she weren't as favorable to Vice President Harris. However, it is important to consider that different people may go into the debate and see the debate differently. And Missouri, as we can kind of even saw like within the primary, like say the Republican primary, we may have voters who are a little bit more sympathetic to Trump. And so if we even go back to the primary, Bill Eigel did quite well within this primary, and those are kind of more Trump-like voters. And so those voters are probably thinking Trump probably did pretty well within that debate. And so probably the debate, maybe in some other more swingy states, may have a little bit more influence. Here, I wouldn't be surprised if more Missourians thought Trump did better than
yeah, we are keeping a close eye on Pennsylvania. We're no longer the bellwether state that we used to be.
No, we do not. We are no longer the state that, like, as goes Missouri, as goes the nation.
Right. Do you think that debate will move the needle when it comes to actual turnout?
To turn out...
Not turnout, but how people will vote is what I should say.
So it probably is going to have a little bit of influence. And so then here, however, the political science research has generally shown that debates have limited influence. They may have like a little bit of like influence at the short term, but then people kind of return home to where they were. Where this may be a little bit different is that people haven't had as much opportunity to learn about Vice President Harris as they had maybe with previous presidential candidates. So Vice President Harris did not go through the traditional nomination process. And so this may have been a lot of times first that they watched Vice President Harris for an hour and a half on television. And so then here they kind of got to see some of her maybe different policy views or just who she was as a person. And so that may be where a little bit more movement may have happened.
I think all of America can say that no one had really seen her for that extended period of time. And when we've seen her in the Democratic debates, for, a few years ago, but to see her one-on-one,
so
Trump was...
Exactly. And so Californians have seen her, but she did have the vice president debate last 4 years ago against Pence. But over 60 million people kind of tuned in to this debate this past week. And so that may make this shape it a little bit more,
Let's look at the Senate race for Missouri, Kunz versus Hawley. We've got the incumbent, but Kunz appears to be a formidable challenger.
No, so Kunz is trying to run a very formidable campaign. He ran last time, wasn't successful in the primary, and he's kind of running again this time. But Josh Hawley has about an 11-point lead within our poll on this. And then an interesting thing that we kind of found in our poll this time is that Josh Hawley is actually now the most approved of Missouri political figure within our poll. And so Governor Parson has typically held this title, but right now Josh Hawley, 53% of Missouri likely voters approve of Josh Hawley's performance. And then if we go back just 2 years ago to August of 2022, only 46% of Missouri voters approved of Hawley's performance. So over the last 2 years, 7% of Missouri voters, there's been kind of like been this bump for Hawley.
And he certainly embraced a populist message, as is Lucas Kunce, which we typically associate with Democrats, but both of them are really going after that.
No, so both of them are, yes, embracing this more populist message. They're kind of more trying to go for those more rural voters. But here, I think it is kind of impressive that Hawley is kind of on this rise.
And in just a few days, let's go to the ballot issues. Abortion, much talked about, the abortion amendment. It survived a challenge. It is going to appear on the Missouri ballot. Can you explain what happened in layman's terms?
And so, yeah, there's been a lot that's been happening with Amendment 3, the abortion amendment, which if Amendment 3 does pass, then it would open the opportunity for there to be more legal access to abortion within the state of Missouri. And so there were multiple issues that kind of occurred in the past, like, say, 10 days. One involved, say, the language that was actually going to kind of appear, or the fair ballot language. And so in that is going to change. And then there was another challenge of whether or not it was even going to appear on the ballot. And so then here on a lower court that ruled that it should not appear on the ballot. But then the Missouri Supreme Court ruled that it should be on the ballot. And so as of right now, the Amendment 3 will be on the ballot. And so with this, at least with the YouGov poll kind of found, at least in terms of whether or not it would pass, is that it did cross a very important threshold. So we found that, say, 52% of Missouri likely voters would support Amendment 3, 34% said that they would oppose, and 14% said they were not sure. And so we asked this exact same question about 6 months ago, and this is about an 8% increase in support. And so it's really important to kind of consider that we kind of are seeing that we've crossed that 50% threshold. Because here, all Amendment 3 needs is that 50%.
50%.
And so so this is within the margin of error, like sort of thing. So our margin of error is about 3.8 here. But there's still about 14% not sure voters. And in previous polls, we did find that at least 60% of Democrats, Independents, and Republicans are all in favor of a woman having access to an abortion in cases of rape, incest, and life of mother.
Yes, and so we will certainly be keeping a close eye on that. One thing I skipped over was the governor's race. And we did hear about Crystal Quade and State Senator Crystal Quade and Lieutenant Governor Kehoe, who are both vying for governor. They have both taken, planted their flag. As far as their positions.
Yeah, and so this is actually the closest race that we kind of found within the statewide. And so Lieutenant Governor Kehoe still has a healthy lead of about 10%. So it's 51 to 41 with about 6% not sure. And an interesting thing kind of about this race is that, and all actually the Republican races, is that Crystal Quade in particular is really kind of embracing her opinion, let's say, on Amendment 3 or on the abortion issue. And then one thing that we kind of find, if we kind of tie together the results that we found kind of on Amendment 3, along with these statewide races, that we find very typically about 30% of people who are supporting these Republican candidates, so in particular for Mike Kehoe, 31% of Kehoe supporters are also supporting Amendment 3. And so this may be seeming a little surprising, in which we think Republicans, they're probably typically more pro-life.
Yeah, there'd be a hard line between the two.
Exactly. And so then this one thing we're finding is that we are finding people who are, say, splitting their tickets across amendments and, say, candidates, but they're not necessarily, so they're splitting.
They're not all in.
They're not all, And so here, a lot of times Democrats may be thinking Amendment 3 is going to be helping us all the way through, and it's going to be helping some, but there are a lot of people who are voting Republican, but then also supporting Amendment 3.
We'll see what tips the balance, I guess.
Exactly.
All right, a lot of good information here. We appreciate your insight. As always, Professor Stephen Rogers from St. Louis.